Barak Shalom, everyone. It's Out the Box Kingdom Talk with me, Out the Box Kingdom. I hope you all are having a wonderful yom. I just thought I would come on here just to kind of talk with you guys about some more wonderful scriptures, or should I say more revelations that the Most High is consistently revealing to his children. So today I started reading the book of Ezekiel. And I love Ezekiel because, you know, Ezekiel, the Most High had him to look behind the walls and he got to see what the so-called Yashrael was doing behind the scenes. And the Most High said, see, they don't think I see what they're doing, but I see everything. And he was having Ezekiel to speak the judgment, but also demonstrating some things too of what he was going to do as far as them going in exile and all these other things. And so, like I said, time and time again, when we start this walk, there are certain scriptures in that certain time and season that we're in that makes sense. But then there's some things we just end up looking over. And so the Most High has us to go back and read, right? And so I've read the book of the prophets several times, but this time go around, I had a lot of highlights in my book, in the book of the prophets, and just revealing, because the book of Ezekiel is talking about the judgment against Yashrael. Now we know in the book of Yirmiyahu, there's the judgment of Yah, but then the redemption of the remnant that the Most High is talking about. But then we see the judgment of the heathen nations that have come together against Yashrael. So the Most High, some of them he's going to cut down to a stem, but then he's going to turn back their captivity. But there's just some like Babel and the Chaldeans and Esau, he's going to completely annihilate. So Abba Yahuah makes it very clear about what he's getting ready to do and how he's going to do it, right? So today I was reading Ezekiel 13. And y'all know a couple of my videos I've been talking about the false prophets, right? Those that prophesy in the name of Baal. And then once again, if you don't know what Baal is, that's where Lord comes from. So they're prophesying in the name of Baal versus Abba Yahuah, right? But Ezekiel, it gets more juicier in Ezekiel, right? Because the Most High is talking to these false prophets again, but these are the prophets of Yashrael, right? Supposedly. And if you really pay attention to the book of Yirmiyahu and the book of Ezekiel, you'll see the Most High is repeating the same thing to Yirmiyahu and Ezekiel. We see that the Most High told Yirmiyahu that don't say your youth, but he had pretty much, since he was in his mother womb, he pretty much had set him apart to be a prophet to the nations, right? Or Nabayim. But you see that in Ezekiel, he said, I have ordained you as a watchman. If you didn't know, watchman and prophet are like the same thing. They watch and they speak, you know. The watchman on the watchtower, the sound, the alarm and stuff like that. But then Yirmiyahu, in the book of Yirmiyahu, the Most High tells Yirmiyahu, you're going to be dealing with rebellious people, right? They're going to, do not be fearful of them, for I'm going to make your face like flint. And he says the same thing to Ezekiel, the same thing. You're dealing with a rebellious house of Yashrael. They have ears, but they don't hear. They see, but they don't see, right? So right then and there is just like what the Most High was telling Moshe when it came to Pharaoh. You're going to be tell him to let my people go. But just know that his heart, I have turned his heart hardened towards you, which is the rebellion the hard-heartedness. And because of Pharaoh being hard-hardened, guess what the Most High did? He took him out. So, but in the book of Ezekiel, we see Ezekiel always like crying out to the Most High, are you just going to destroy your remnant? But he wasn't, destroying his remnant. He was destroying those within in the mixture of the remnant. Those tares he's going to destroy, right? Because they have forsaken their birthright, or should I say their laws, and they rather live the Hellenized way of life and against the laws and the commandments and the instruction of the Most High versus following the ways of the Most High. You know what I'm saying? So they want the riches, they want the wealth, they want the abundant life, but they don't want to go through the process or obey the instructions of Abba Yahuah. So that's why when you have Christianity coming in and say the Torah has been done away with and all this other stuff, it has not, right? That is the Hellenization of Christianity. And people are like, okay, so where did that come from? Right? So for those that didn't know, Hellenization came in. It's in the book of Meccabees, chapter 6. It's the second book of Meccabees, chapter 6, right? So within the Hebrew nation, we had a lot of Hebrews that was willing to stay in the ways and the commandments and the laws of the Most High. But then we had the Judases in the midst, those thorns, right? That saw how the heathen nations was living. And so they began to deal craftily of how they can get the Hebrews to forsake the ways of the Most High so they can reap the abundance of the Greeks or the Romans, let's just say. And so they schemed and, like the priest was in the temple, they replaced those and put people that wasn't even ordained as priests, sound familiar, right, in the temple. And that's how the Yekezqal went from a house of prayer, or should I say palau, to a den of thieves. Okay. So in the second book of Meccabees, it says, and this is chapter 6, not long after this, the king sent out an old man of Athens to compel the Yehudins to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live by the laws of Yahuah, and also to pollute the sanctuary in Jerusalem and to call it by the name of Olympian Zeus, to call the sanctuary in Gerizim by the name of Zeus, to protect the foreigners, even as people who lived in that place did. The visitation of this evil was harsh and utterly grievous, for the temple or the Yekezqal was filled with debauchery and reveling by the heathen who dallied with prostitutes and had intercourse with women within the sacred precincts, and moreover brought inside things that were not acceptable. The altar was filled with those abominable things which had been prohibited by the laws. A man could neither keep the Sabbath nor observe the feasts of their ancestors, nor so much as confess himself to be a Yehudin. And on that yom of the king's birth, every month they were led along with bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. So they was forced to eat abominable foods on the king's birthday. Now, if y'all didn't realize, every time there was a king's birthday, somebody got killed. Okay. Herodes, that was Yehukin and their Mercer, they cut off his head. And then Pharaoh with the baker, that baker got his head cut off. Okay. So he was in Paul. But you see what I'm saying? Every time there was a king birthday, there was something wicked that was going on. So this is why we shouldn't even be observing our birthdays at all, because it's a ritualistic day. It's like they said, Satan to say, It's a day of idol worship. You're idolizing yourself, and people are coming to worship you technically. And if you haven't noticed, nowadays, especially our people, they celebrating birthdays and somebody close to them died, or they actually died the day of their birthday, or a couple of days. So it's definitely spiritual. It's definitely demonic. So keep that in mind. So it says the king's birth every month. They were led with bitter constraints to eat the sacrifices. And when the feast of Dionysia came, they were compelled to go in procession in honor of Dionysus. When wreaths of ivory, a decree went out to the neighboring Greek cities by the suggestion of Ptolemy that they should observe the same conduct against the Yehudins and should make them eat of the sacrifices. So it started there, but then these kings started doing decrees in these other goyams to saying force them to eat the sacrifices, the abominable foods, right? And that they should kill those who didn't choose to go over the Greek rites. So the present misery was for all to see. For example, 2 women who were brought in for having circumcised their children, and when they had led them publicly around the city with the babes hung from their breasts, they threw down headlong from the wall. So they pretty much threw them off the wall and killed them with their babies. These some cruel people. Others who had run together into the caves nearby to keep the 7th young secretly were betrayed to Philip and were all burnt at the stake, right? Sound familiar? Them Salem witch trials. Was they really witches? All right. Because they were piety and kept them from defending themselves in view of honor of that most solemn day. I urge those who read this book to not be discouraged because of the calamities, but recognize that these punishments were not for the destruction, but for the chastening of our race. For indeed, it is a sign of great kindness, and that those who act impiously are not let alone for a long time, but immediately meet with retribution. For in the case of the other nations, the sovereign allure waits patiently to punish them until they have attained to the full measure of their sins, but not with us, that he may not take vengeance on us afterwards, when we have come to the height of our sins. Therefore, he never withdraws his mercy from us, but though he chastens with calamity, he doesn't forsake his own people. And we see this time and time again, that the Most High does punish us because we have rebelled against him, but he hasn't forsaken us. And he always say, I will never leave you nor forsake you, right? So as you can see, they force themselves because, they use our own people, right? Some of our own people with snakes, they begin to convey what the other heathens were doing. And so they started to scheme, and how can we get in the temple? And so this is how what is supposed to be a place of Palau, that we show honor to the Most High. This is why he says the buildings can't retain his Ruach, right? But he doesn't dwell in a place that's made with man's hands, because he knows the corruptedness that's within these buildings, these sanctuaries, right? They have literally gone from a Kodesh place to a defiled place of robbery, where they prey on people's emotions, especially our own people. See, these Gentiles, or from these Roman and Greek lineages, they're not stupid for a long shot. And at one point in time, if you read the book of Meccabees, there was a time that the Yehudins was an alliance with Rome. But you see how Rome just turned, it started with Alexander, but you see how they flipped the script on us just that quick. When another ruler, Alexander was great with, he wasn't harsh. There was a honoring there. There was a respect there. But then when a new ruler came, which remember, like with Pharaoh, the first Pharaoh showed favor to Joseph and his family, but when the second one came, he didn't remember the covenant. So he was out to just destroy them. Well, that's what this next Roman ruler did. He was out to destroy them, right? So this is not getting on topic, but I'm gonna add this in here. So did y'all know that sports wasn't even part of our culture at all? And this would explain why in school I hated PE. I hated PE. I wanted to be physically fit in my own way, and my way was I love to dance, but you know, dance is part of worship, right? Because I have my flags, you know, my flags and praise dance flags now. But when I began to read Meccabees 2, once again, our own people, those that wanted to be Hellenized, came even agreement and was forcing our people into playing sports of the Romans. And the whole sports idea, because you see now, they're always pushing the narrative for the Hebrew men. They come in these colleges, they'll present, look, they're going to high schools and they're presenting, the scholarship, money, the drafts, when we know the drafts ain't nothing but a straight up slave trade thing, right? Because they got to check your speed and all that stuff like you some horse or something. But according to this, the people that was Hellenized, that was once again trying to force us, our ancestors, into forsaking the ways of Yah, they came up with a scheme to build up gymnasiums, but they introduced the young Hebrew, the next generation of Hebrew priests, to sports to get them away from worshiping the Most High Yahuah. Ain't that some wicked mess? So now if you think about it, that's how in the sanctuaries, they don't only just promote the fraternities and sororities, but they're always promoting football. Why is football on Sunday? Because that's not our day of worship anyway. Our day is the Sabbath, not Sunday sun worship, where they worship the sun deity, right? But then they push the narrative of football, which is, or all kinds of sports, right? Which you see is an arena. It's a Greek arena. The Olympics in an arena. They always got to carry the torch, right? So let me go in here. So this is coming from the second book of Meccabees. And this is coming from, second Meccabees chapter 4, verses 9. So it says, in addition to this, he undertook to assign 150 more, if it might be allowed him, through the king's authority, to set him up a gymnasium and a body of youths to be trained in it, and to register the inhabitants of Jerusalem as citizens of Antioch. Sound familiar, right? So, you know, Antioch is supposed to have been the place where Paul, I believe it was Barnabas and Paul. It wasn't Silas, I don't think, but that's when they so-called established the first assembly. But they trying to say Christianity, but it was really of the Nazarene, the way, the narrow way, but they went in and changed that. So, and to go register the inhabitants of Jerusalem as citizens of Antioch. So when the king had assented and Jason had taken possession of the office, he immediately shifted those of his own race to the Greek way of life. Sounds familiar, right? When these boles, these civil rights leaders and all of them, what you think they've been doing for years? Trying to keep us in a place of the hellenization culture. They don't want us to know who we are. So they've been trying to keep their own race, which is us, in the Greek way of life. Let's keep going. Setting aside the royal ordinances of special favor of the Yehudins granted by the means of John the father of Eupolemus, who went on the mission to the Romans to establish friendship and alliance in seeking to overthrow the lawful ways of living. He brought in new customs forbidden by law. He eagerly established a gymnasium under the citadel itself and caused the noblest of the young men to wear the Greek hat. Sounds like the fraternity stuff, don't it? The Greek way of life, them letters, right? Thus, there was an extreme of Hellenization and an advance of a foreign religion by reason of the exceeding profaneness of Jason, who was an unlawful man and not a high priest, so that the priest had no more any zeal for the services of the altar, but despising the sanctuary and neglecting the sacrifices, they hastened to enjoy that which was unlawfully provided in the wrestling area after the summons to the discus throwing. Oh, discus throwing. Okay, sorry. They despised the honors of their fathers and valued the prestige of the Greeks best of all. For this reason, severe calamity overtook them. The men whose ways of living they earnestly followed, and to whom they desired to be like in all things, these became their enemies and punished them. For it is not a light thing to show irreverence to Yahuwah's laws, but later events will make this clear. Now, when certain games that came every 5th year were kept at Tyre, and the king was present, the vow Jason sent sacred envoys as being Antiochians of Jerusalem, bearing 300 drachmas of silver to sacrifice of Hercules, which even the bearers thereof thought not right to use for any sacrifices, because it was not fit, but to send it for another purpose. Although the intent purpose of the sender, this money was for the sacrifice of Hercules, yet on account of present circumstances, it went to the construction of the Tromanim warships. So they literally is using sports to draw these young men from being the royal priesthood, to forget where they come from, right? And this is where they have the money. And as they're playing these sports or whatever, they're going to have judgment too, as far as the Most High. And it's interesting. I never really liked sports like that at all. That was just something. And now I understand, as I'm reading more of Yah's word, I understand why there's certain things I just never really cared for at all, because it's not the Hebrew culture. But yet you'll have our people still trying to push their sons and daughters in these sorority and fraternities wearing these Greek letters. And they're getting brainwashed even more because they pastors are Freemasonry, a part of Freemason and Eastern Stars. So they thinking this is the better way of life. But at the same time, when they sign their contract, they're signing their birthright away, just like Esau did, and making it seem like, taking the mindset that it's irrelevant, that way of life is irrelevant to them. You know what I'm saying? But the Most High is going to deal with them. So all these people that our people be sitting up there idolizing and watching them going back and forth up and down the court or the field on Sunday, they about to have a rude awakening about them. You know what I'm saying? They have forsaken the Most High. And it's sad to say, but we're starting to see time and time again more Hebrew men dying in the NFL and even in the NBA. And I don't know if it's because certain things they have taken, they was forced to take in order to get that check or whatever. But it's starting to happen more. Even time they retire, they don't even live their retirement long and they gone. But that's what happens when you forsake the Most High, right? So now that we know how sports, now we see how Hellenization got in the church. Now let's go a little bit further. And this is for those that want to sit there and keep believing that JUSUS is a true Mashiach. No. So let's read First Meccabees chapter 3 verse 48, and it says, "And they laid open the book of the Torah, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their image." When Yashrael rebelled against the Most High, and he told them he was going to let the heathen, the nations from the north, come in and destroy them because of their rebellion, they end up getting access. They don't have access to all of our books. Okay. Yah made sure that before he allowed them to come in, to take our things, he sent messengers to hide the most Kodesh and sacred things and hide them within the eberiths. So they don't have, only those with Kodesh hands going to be able to have access to that. But however, the Most High intentionally left things for them to confiscate, right? Because he knew at some point in time, all this stuff was going to come to surface like Putin, right? And it was going to be revealed. Okay. But in Meccabees, the verse I just read, they said that they read our books, right? They opened the Torah, and the heathen sought to paint the likeness of their image, which means they sought out to whitewash everything about our history. You know what I'm saying? To make us think we were cursed, right? When we know we're not cursed, we've been punished, right? But the Most High is going to turn back our captivity. But they have twisted narrative, and this is when was used in slavery, especially in the Willie Lynch letters. But however, they have fed us the lies that we all come from Ham when we don't. We're the Shemites. And the Hamites was not the ones cursed. It was Cain. Mitzrayim did not get cursed. Sheba did not get cursed. And Cush did not get cursed. It was Canaan. Cursed be Canaan. That is what Noach said. And because of that, we as the Shemites, or should I say the Hebrews, the Yashraelites, the remnant, their inheritance or their promised land is the land of Canaan. Okay. But in First Meccabees 3:48, it says the heathen sought to paint the likeness of their images. So of course they're going to come in and whitewash what the Mashiach looks like. Okay. They're going to come in and whitewash our scripture to fit their narratives. Oh, it's okay for you to eat pork. But y'all see, I just read here that they forced their religion, the Hellenization of our, not even religion, our way of life to fit their religion, their abomination, their detestable things, their idols. And see, this is why the Most High gonna tear it down. Okay. They have whitewashed our history. When I sit there and see the history that's coming forth now, even though our people, the black history that we was taught in school was the whitewash history, right? Those were the sellouts that they wanted us to know about, unfortunately. Those were like the ones, the Hebrews that want us to sell out, wanted to be Hellenized. See, those are the ones that they taught us in school, because all of them was Boles or Eastern Stars and all this other stuff. That's who they wanted us to know about, and made it seem like they were so honorary, especially the ones that was in the quote unquote astronaut stuff, when we know that stuff is fake, right? But they hid the ones that did not compromise. Okay. The true inventors, like the ones that invented the light bulb, the engines, and I think her name was Zora Thurston, where she wrote about that we didn't need their culture, that as long as we have the Most High, we can exceed abundantly. But her own friends sold her out and they blackballed her, and she died of a broken heart. Sad, right? But we're seeing this throughout history. There's nothing new done under the sun, like Shalom says, okay? So, and it's going to come to that again. That's why you got to be careful who you let sitting at your table or who you invite at the table. They love to say, the cookout and the picnic, but if they know what those terminologies really came from and barbecue, you wouldn't even want to speak that stuff out of your mouth. At this point, I just said the feast. You want to come for our feast that's held outside or something like that. But they come from really bad backgrounds, but we have taken on those names. Just like how football was created. You know what I'm saying? Started off as cruel punishment, and now we done taken it on like it's some family, wonderful mishpachah events. Please. But anyway, let's keep going. So the fact that it says in Maccabees that they sought to paint the likeness of their images, right? Let's fast forward to now today. So I'm going to read the chapter 13 in Ezekiel, and we'll go from there. All right. So the word of Yahuah came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the prophets of Yashrael, who prophesy, and say to those who prophesy out of their own heart, hear the word of Yahuah. Thus says Adon Yahuah, woe to the foolish prophets who are following their own ruach without having a vision. O Yashrael, your prophets have been like foxes among ruins. You have not gone up into the breaches, nor do you build a wall for the house of Yashrael to stand in battle on the Yom of Yahuah. Their visions are malicious, and their divination a lie, saying, Thus says Yahuah, when Yahuah has not sent them, and yet they expect the word to be confirmed. Have you not seen a malicious vision, and have you not spoken a divination of lies? You say, Yahuah says, when I have not spoken. Therefore, thus says Adon Yahuah, because you have spoken falsehood and seen lies, therefore see, I'm against you, says Adon Yahuah. My hand shall be against the prophets who see falsehood and divine lies. They shall not be in the council of my people, nor be written in the record of the house of Yashrael. And they shall not enter into the land of Yashrael. And you shall know that I am Adon Yahuah. So let me stop there right quick. You remember Yahuah specifically said we are not to add nor subtract from his word. He said, if you add to my word, I will add the plagues on you. And if you subtract, I will subtract you from the book of high, which is the book of life. And the Most High just literally said, they shall not be in the council of my people, nor written in the record of the house of Yashrael. That's a census, right? Remember, the Most High didn't want Dawood to write a census, right? And he got punished for that. But these false prophets are being removed. These mainstream platform pastors and prophets that we're seeing, because they have come in agreement with the adversary, they're being removed. Okay. They shall not enter into the land of Yashrael, and you shall know that I'm Abba Yahuah. Because they have led my people astray, saying peace when there is no peace. And when one is building a wall, see, they are coating it with whitewash. Say to those who coat it with whitewash, it shall fall, and there shall be a flooding rain, and you, O great hailstones, fall, and a stormy wind break it down, and see, the wall shall fall. Shall you not be asked, where is the coating in which you coated it? Therefore, thus says Abba Yahuah, I shall break down with a stormy wind in my wrath, and a flooding rain in my displeasure, and great hailstones in wrath to consume. And I shall throw down the wall you have coated with whitewash, and bring it down to the ground, and its foundation shall be uncovered. And it shall fall, and you shall be consumed in the midst of it. And you shall know that I am Yahuah, and I shall complete my wrath on the wall, and on those coating it with whitewash, and say to you, the wall is no more, nor those whitewashing it. The prophets of Yashrael who are prophesying concerning Jerusalem, and who are seeing visions of peace for her when there is no peace, says Abba Yahuah. And you, son of man, set your face against the daughters of your people who are prophesying out of their own heart, and prophesy against them. And you shall say, this is what Abba Yahuah said, woe to the women sewing bands for all joints of the hand, and to those making coverings for the heads of people of every size to hunt beings. You hunt the beings of my people while you keep alive your own beings. And you have profaned me among my people for handsful of barley and for pieces of bread, to put to death beings that should not die, and to keep alive beings who should not be alive, by your lying to my people who listens to lies. Therefore, thus says Abba Yahuah, see, I'm against your bands, and by which you hunt the beings, they're like birds. And I shall tear them from your arms, and shall let the beings go. The beings you hunt like birds, I shall tear off your coverings, and shall deliver my people out of your hand. And they shall no longer be as prey in your hand, and you shall know that I am Yahuah. Because with falsehood you have made the heart of the obedient sad, and whom I have not made sad, and you have strengthened the hands of the lawless, so that he does not turn from his evil way to keep him alive. Therefore, you shall no longer see malicious visions, nor practice divination, and I shall deliver my people out of your hand, and you shall know that I am Yahuah. Y'all said it plain and clear right there to them false prophets talking about your coverings, right? Yep, the Most High gonna strip them from them prophesying lies and they so-called visions. Sound like they about to be struck with straight up blindness. They already the blind leading the blind, you know what I'm saying? But however, the Most High about to bring some serious judgment, like I said, once again, on these false prophets. And now them coming in agreement with the whitewashed teachings. They know exactly what they're doing. They go into these seminary schools, but it's all, like I said, the Circe is a cesspool of demons and sorcery and witchcraft, and it's all about business. Like I said, all the way back to Meccabees, it is there how the hellenization, the colonization of what was supposed to once be a place of worship to the Most High became tainted. And it's still going on today. They have our people sitting up there going to these altars, bowing down to this so-called cross idol, which is a graven image, okay, which was divided and conquered by Constantine. That's where the cross came from. So they got them bowing down to that. They got them partaking in their form of communion, which is religious. You know what I'm saying? They have taken Yah's word and contaminated and has translated it. This is why we have so many translations now. You know what I'm saying? The Message Bible was written by a lesbian. You know what I'm saying? They coming out with all these, and yet the Freemasons have their own Bible. That is straight up blasphemy. And then Trump came out with his own version, the American Bible, with the the Constitution written in the front of it. You just add it to the scripture. When the Most High say, "You shall not add these plagues onto you." Look, let me tell you something. The Most High is not to be mocked. And like I said, we're seeing time and time again. And like I said, they're finding these old paintings of the Mashiach and the emissaries and even the Nebiims of old that was once whitewashed. And when they scraped the paint off of it, the true images that could not fade is of bronze and, like you say, jasper or beryl. And they've been well preserved. But yet you're still going to have our people rather believe those that have lied to them and want to believe in the whitewashed Mashiach versus believe in what the true Mashiach looks like. Because they have believed this whole false narrative that we are minorities when we are majorities. And that we were great inventors. We were once Malaks and Melikas and the Eberiths. We were a royal priest, and we still are a royal priesthood, a royal nation. But like I said, it's still going to be revealed in time because Yah is coming in, like he said, a flood of rain. What happened when there was a flood of rain? There was a flood in the times of Noah because the floodgates of the Shemayim was open. And the downpouring of the Ruach Yah getting ready to have upon his people. Let me tell you, and this judgment ain't going to be no joke. This walk ain't for everybody. And this lifestyle is not to be something to be played around with. And these Christianity has got people bamboozled. And they having fun with these so-called prophecies. But they're going to find out very quickly that their prophecies ain't going to become fulfilled. And it's sad because, like he said, they've been prophesying to the people technically and have made them sad. That means they have prayed. He's saying, y'all have preyed on my people by giving them false prophecy of wealth and all this other thing and sold this seed of $1,300 and all this, and nothing has not come to pass in their life. But you're saying it comes from the LRD because, yeah, they're prophesying in the name of Baal, not Abba Yahuah. See, if it was from Abba Yahuah, it will not fall to the ground. It will come exactly as in the way it's supposed to. And we're in a time now when he prophesied, when he speak a word to his prophets, it's not going to come delayed. It's going to come exactly in the way he says it. Through that Nebiim or through that prophetess, you know what I'm saying? Yah's word do not fall to the ground. Like I said, Yashrael, they knew he was a prophet of the Most High Yahuah because whatever he said did not fall to the ground. Let me tell you, Yashrael, when Saul failed to slew the king because he was scared what the people was going to think, Yashrael went there and cut and killed that king. He ain't care. He was all about Yah's business. When it came down to the Meccabees, When it came to the tribe of Yahud, the Yahudim and Yashrael back then in Meccabees, they was going in. If somebody came in and tried to erect their idols and stuff like that, they was tearing it down. They was uprooting it, they was gutting it, and they was reestablishing the covenant of Abba Yahuah. And when they did that, that place flourished. When it came time for war, they flourished. But see, once again, them heathen nations, because they didn't want to die, they'll find a way to scheme, and then they'll turn against us. And this is how we ended up falling again, by shaking hands with the wrong people. So you got to, in this time, once again, we can't get caught up in color. You got to know people by their fruit. And you got to ask the Most High Yahuah, did he send this person? And if they are for you, Abba Yahuah, confirm it. And if not, remove them. Expose them and remove them. And the Most High will do that. But the Most High going to keep those wicked people from his children too. Just as quick as they came in a circle, he going to quickly move them out. Not that one. You know what I'm saying? But we have to be careful in this end times, because you're going to have your own people, or those you think are true followers of Yahuah and Yahusha. And they saying his name and all this stuff, but let that time get hard. They're willing, especially if they know that you're not in a place of compromise, they'll be willing to sell you out for 30 pieces of shekel, because they think, oh, that's how I'm going to get bread. If they did it back then in Meccabees, they're going to do it again in this time. So don't be fooled. Don't be fooled, Yashrael, or should I say, don't be fooled, remnants. Whether you are the remnant of Yashrael or the engrafted ones. Because the adversary is going to try you. Okay? But the Most High is going to take care of you. You know what I'm saying? It's hard right now because a lot of us be wanting community. But right now, it's like we can't be as quick to be jumping in community right now, because there's a lot of wolves in sheep clothing. There are a lot of tares that's being still taught to the people. Like I said, still teaching racism, still teaching error of doctrine, as in other things, or the Quran and all the Book of Mormon. That's not part of our books. It never was. So why are you teaching that? So those are the things you have to be careful about and begin to question. Anytime you're in a place you're questioning, on like a side note, go back to the Most High and ask him, why is it that you're questioning that? Or you're very, I ain't gonna say suspicious about a person, because he will reveal it. Why am I feeling towards this person? Can you reveal the light about this? What is hidden in the dark to the light to me, Yah? And he will do that. So, yeah, the Most High is going to uproot this whole thing about coverings that we've been lied to in Christianity. Oh, you need a covering, when really it's a monitoring spirit, want to monitor what you do, and they go up and they pull out against you, find out the truth. That's all it is. So you can keep coming back to their church, so you can go back into the experience, or should I say under spells, thinking you are being filled by the Ruach HaKodesh, or you was laid out or slain in the spirit or something like that, when you really under a spell. And of course, they got to play their little music to have you in a trance. That way, when they keep saying sow the seed, because if you notice, every time they finish their message and they getting ready to collect, they always got to play that soft worship music. It's all performance, y'all. And then, of course, they got to have their moments when they do the altar call, and they call themselves delivering people from demons, and get that bucket over there. They're going to puke out this demon, the name of JUSUS, please. You know what I'm saying? You think you got delivered and set free, and you didn't. You still struggling with homosexuality, or still masturbating, or watching pornography or something, or having multiple partners. Look, let me tell you something. Yes, the building was supposed to be at one point in time a hospital, but it's not anymore. Like I said, it has become a cesspool of demons. So on that note, Y'all be careful out here of who y'all listening to and who y'all are sitting at their table, right? Because they don't care about your spiritual well-being. The Most High cares, though, because he wants his people to come out of the darkness, right? And to come to his marvelous light, right? And he don't want us to be led astray any longer. So Abba Yahuah is the one that's establishing steps of his people. And they love using it now as a terminology. Oh, they're worshiping the anti-Mashiach. But we know that's all a lie. We're coming into truth. Y'all the ones that's worshiping the anti-Mashiach. Y'all are the ones that's going to be held accountable of leading y'all's children astray with your lies. And a lot of people has fallen away from the building because of y'all lies. Because they seeing y'all been prophesying and they ain't seen nothing come to pass. And the Most High is not a man that he should lie. And a lot of people are coming into realization of that. He ain't gonna lie about what he's spoken to you. It shall surely come to pass. So on that note, y'all, I hope this message truly beroots you. Like I said, I was that person at one point in time, was going to the building because I wanted to experience my Father. I wanted to experience the move of the Ruach HaKodesh, right? But as I was in there, like I said, I just never fit in. I went to actually a church called the JUSUS church. I got accused of being a witch. All because at that time I was wearing braids. And I went from wearing my natural hair to being a creative that I am, that loves to style hair. And I had purple and I had black, purple, and gold. It was streaked with gold and purple, but the rest of it was black. And because I came into a church, first of all, discernment is something. And I can tell when something's off. And mind you, being in the state of CO, it was only probably like 3 of Hebrews in there, if you catch my drift. But one day I came in there, and just because I had my hair different, I got accused of being a witch or witchcraft, because a certain woman that was on the quote-unquote prayer team and was friends with the pastor and his wife saw a video of an African woman being supposedly delivered, and she had all yellow braids. She was being delivered supposedly from a marine demon or something like that. So she took that video and said that that's what I was dealing with. Yeah. And then another woman there that I had allowed in my house. And I had, pull out for her and everything. And I remember one particular day she wanted me to pull out for her sister, because her sister supposedly found either a Ouija board or a Satanist book in her house. And she's like, can you pull out for her? And the Most High told me, said, no, don't pull out for her. And because I said no, that same woman went to that church and told them, claiming that she had a dream that I was doing witchcraft. And come to find out, she came from a family of Satanists, and she was SA'd for not sexually abused, but SRA. That's what it is. SRA. So she came from a lineage of that, right? I can't sit next to her. And I mean, it was terrible. But all praise to the Most High. I was getting ready to leave. I really was. But he said, you don't leave until I tell you to leave. And within that place, that's when I met this wonderful woman. The Most High had me to meet her because she was the bridge being used, to pour into my life. She the one that prophesied in my life, and stuff like that, which I'm going to keep to myself. But she was the one that introduced me to a ministry that was exposing Freemasonry. So that's how I came into knowing about that. So the adversary tribe, but they know who you are. You know what I'm saying? But they was trying to make me feel inferior. You know what I'm saying? And I ended up meeting a rabbi priest there as well. And when I said something to him about the year of Jubilee, he didn't tell me I was incorrect. But he was like, how did you find out? And I said, the Ruach HaKodesh. But like I said, they be knowing who the Hebrews are. So, and then some of them don't. They come to the truth now. So, but y'all had me to experience that because that just goes the anti-Mashiach didn't want me being there. I got accused even of having the false Ruach HaKodesh by a guy that was on a prayer team that had a swastika on his throat, like tattooed on his throat, y'all. Like, so now as I'm reading all this stuff, I'm like, man, confirmation after confirmation. When you are the light and the salt and you are a remnant or you a child of the Most High, the demons will let you know they don't want you in there. But what the adversary was trying to do while I was there was to get me to question my relationship with the Most High. Because they will always say, you need to read your word more. You need to read. I say, I'm looking at them like I probably read the word more than you do. You know what I'm saying? But see, that's how the adversary do. You need to submit more. But what they really trying to say is you need to submit more to me and my false doctrine of error. They don't want you to come in truth. They want you to think that you're doing something wrong. But see, Yah knows how, because he's not an author of confusion. So just remember that. Anytime you have somebody trying to sow tares of confusion, that is not of Yah whatsoever. That's why it's so important for you to stay in your word yourself. But I wanted to come on here because I really, really wanted to emphasize and come with scripture and help our people realize everything around us is whitewashed. Everything around us has been infiltrated, or should I say Hellenized, by the Roman Greek culture. You know what I'm saying? Even Yah's word. But Yah is going to tear that down. It's going to burn down to the ground, just like he's going to take care of Babel and these other heathen nations that came in cohorts. Let us deal craftily with them, or let us deal with them that they won't know that they even a nation. They wanted to get rid of us. So Yah is going to flip the script. Everything is written. So if you have not read the book of Meccabees, I suggest and stop listening to these Christian so-called teachers that tell y'all, oh, that's not part of the scriptures. Meccabees and all that, to Chanakh, all them are definitely biblical texts. So they're not going to even tell you about Paul and Thecla. Thecla was a follower of Paul, or should I say the follower of the way. She was a Gentile, but guess what? She lived in the ways of the Hebrews or whatever. And she became the first female emissary. So, this is what I'm talking about. So those people that have their opinionated teaching, that's what you have to be careful with, opinionated teaching. They're supposed to come strictly from the word and not add or subtract. Whatever revelation the Ruach HaKodesh has given us, that's what we're supposed to give, so people can get their own personal revelation from the Most High. But I wanted to share that today because when I was reading Ezekiel 13 and I saw the whitewash, and I said, wait a minute, that sound like what I read in Meccabees. And that's where I had to go back and give y'all that, along with the chapter 6, in 2nd Meccabees chapter 6, because it's in there. That's how our place of worship, our sanctuary, or should I say our Yekezqal, was tainted and Hellenized, or should I say defiled, because our own people wanted to be like the heathen nations, when Yah said, do not do what the heathen nations are doing. So come out of her. I'm going to say it time and time again. Come out of Babylon. You cannot be a lover of this world and a lover of Yah. You can't. You cannot serve two masters. You either going to serve Abba Yahuah, or you're going to serve the world. But just know, you stay in the world, you're going to perish, because the world is like Sodom and Gomorrah. Yah destroyed that place with fire and brimstone. It was not a soul left in there. Okay? So you need to come out of that. You need to repent and turn back to Abba Yahuah and get in his word, so he can begin to refine you and transform you by renewing your mind. You cannot do it yourself. These self-help books they got out there and talking about some enlightenment and self-healing, that is crap. You cannot heal yourself. The Most High is the only one that can heal you, but he can only heal you with his word. But you can't mix no hoodoo, voodoo, no Yoruba divination, or being a Eberith priest. None of that. You cannot mix that with Yah's Kodesh word. You can't mix Kodesh with wickedness. You're either going to have the lawful and the lawless, but the lawless will be destroyed. The idols, the form of living, everything to non-existence. Everything. It's like him saying everything must go. And you cannot love it. Even down to how you make money. Because the Most High is the one that gives you the ability to make wealth. But it's not in the ways you think this world has taught us. They got almost every strategy book. They talking about, oh, get my strategy book of how you can make wealth. It's about 300 and something books of this. How to get wealthy overnight. You know how you got wealthy overnight? By stealing, killing, and destroying. That's how you got wealthy. But you ain't going to put that in your book. That's why the Most High said, do not covet what these wealthy people have. They have done some wicked things. Innocent babies and all this. Look, let me tell y'all. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. But when you come to know Yah, he will take care of you. Okay? So on that note, sorry for the long rant, y'all, but I'm very compassionate about Yah's word. And when I end up finding out the true truth about where the root of Christianity, I was done. But I had this fiery anger. Not to the point that I wanted to go and, but just didn't want to have nothing to do with it. So it's like when I hear a lot of my family members talk about their pastors, I'm like, do you know your pastors get paid to lie to you? And it's the truth, but they don't want to hear that. They want to think because he went to school or she went to school that they're giving them the truth. No. I see all kind of maggots and flies all over that so-called plate of food that they feeding you. You know what I'm saying? But you can't tell them nothing. Like you said, a rebellious, stiff-necked generation, or should I say, Yashrael is very stiff-necked and rebellious. They only want to hear what they want to hear, and they want to see what they want to see. But speak it anyway, because you cannot afford to have people's blood on your hands. And the Most High told Ezekiel, if I tell you that person, thus says Yahuah, this person shall die in 7 days, you better tell them exactly what I said, or their blood gonna be on your hands. If you don't rebuke them and tell them they living in sin, they will die in their sin, but their blood gonna be on your hands. If the obedient one sins and you don't tell him of his disobedience, his blood gonna be on your hands. If the obedient one is sinning and he does turn back, then his blood won't be on your hands. Let me tell you something. You don't want to be that person that comes passive aggressive like Ahab did. When we know what Ahab did, right? We know what Saul did, and the Most High took them out. We know what happened with Eli when he was allowing his sons to sit up there and defile the Yekezqal and was sleeping with women, just like I read in Meccabees. And what happened? The whole lineage got taken out. So let me tell you something. The judgment of Yah ain't sparing no one that has committed, have forsaken his way of life, and have decided to keep their abominable ways because they want to be comfortable. It ain't going to just be them. It's going to be their family. When y'all say he doing Operation Clean House, he is doing it. And it may be one out of the whole family that may survive. I'm doing some realistic facts here. So your family members may think you strange or you think you better than us. No. In a book of Meccabees, even in Truth Unedited, about the revolt of the Meccabees, how the set apart people was, they enjoyed their set apart life. But they got persecuted because the other people, even their own people that wanted to be Hellenized, wanted that money so bad that they was willing to kill them. They killed children. They killed mothers because they were honoring the Sabbath. They were circumcising on the 8th Yom when the child was supposed to be circumcised. Their feast days, they wanted to whitewash and get rid of all that, and they got punished for that. All for the name of Abba Yahuah and Yahusha. Or should I say, yeah, Yahuah. So, it's a cruel, cruel world that we in, y'all. But now we have a better understanding of how, quote unquote, Christianity started and got rooted. So on that note, I hope y'all be baruched as always. Go back and read. Go back and read Ezekiel 13, 2nd Maccabees chapter 6, and 2nd Maccabees chapter 6, verses 1 through 16, and 1st Maccabees 3, verse 48, because it's time to wake up, Yashrael. And if you decide that you want to keep being stiff-necked, that's between you and the Most High. You can't get upset with nobody else but yourself, because you have been warned. And the warnings are coming out more frequently now to wake you up and tell you to come out before. And that's the mercy and the grace of Abba Yahuah. But if you don't take heed to what is being spoken, it don't matter if you bloodline. Color don't even matter, because like they said, the Most High shows no partiality in no one. If you're obedient, he will mark you and make sure you're not touched. But if you have became an enemy to him, if you lovers of the world, you are enemies of Abba Yahuah, you getting taken out. I don't care of how many charities you done donated to, how much hours you done sat up there and was a candy striper at the hospital, or you done gave penny, nickels, and dimes to a homeless person knowing you had $10,000 or more in your account. That ain't gonna matter, because your works are in vain. He never knew you. Yahushua gonna say, turn away from me, I never knew thee. That's what you're gonna receive. Wherever your treasure is stored up, that's where your heart is, and that's what your reward's gonna be. They like sitting up there boasting with their little selfies that they feeding the homeless person. You're gonna get your reward then. So on that note, I'm done now. Y'all have a Baruch, Yom, and Shabuah. As we are, let's we're still in the first week of May. But y'all enjoy y'all Shabbat as always. And for those that are watching, comment. If you got some questions, ask some questions. I like to interact with my brothers and sisters and engrafted ones. You know what I'm saying? But I praise Abba Yahuah for the truth, exposing the truth and bringing it to the light as a flood wave. Praise to Abba Yahuah, waking up his children to dry bones. Hallelujah. Which I'm going to end up reading about it in Ezekiel anyway. So praise y'all for that. So once again, thanks for tuning in on Out the Box Kingdom Talk with me, Out the Box Kingdom. Baruch Shalom.